Marhaba friends, installing Nvidia and Intel drivers on your Arch system. And yes, if you have a legacy system like me, then you're in for a treat. Because I found that my fellow YouTubers, they all focus on the newer graphics cards for Intel, maybe they are lucky, and nobody explains anything about the legacy systems which we poor souls like us have. So, if you have a legacy system which has Intel and Nvidia, you're in for a treat. And even if you have Intel or Nvidia separately, you can watch this video. This is a complete walkthrough which will install all the drivers, including the graphic drivers, the hardware acceleration drivers also. All right, and a big shout out to my fellow YouTuber Demon Killer, who provides a nice GUI to install Arch, and I used his GUI installer to install Arch on my system, without which it would not have been possible. All right, so the first thing we have to do is to update our system, and once you've updated your system, please reboot, and then we will start our installation of Intel and Nvidia drivers. Now after I've rebooted, I have a fresh desktop background, and I'm just going to show you whatever the things I have on my system. I mean my CPU and my GPU. I have an Intel CPU which is legacy, and the iGPU is also second generation core from Intel. GPU is Nvidia GT525M, the latest and the greatest. Yes, that's it. And I'm running the Zen kernel. Okay, so keep these things in mind, and you can have systems similar to me. Now, after we have checked that we do not have any more updates, we need to install some tools that we'll be using. So first, I need access to the AUR library. So I'm going to install Yay from Pacman. Once we have got Yay, all right, then we are going to install some of the development tools. We are going to be building some packages. So we are going to install some base development tools, as that is base devel, and I have already installed it. So if you haven't, please install it and make sure that the installation goes through correctly. Otherwise, we will not be able to build packages from the AUR. All right. Now, if we check on our system, what Intel drivers we have the Intel microcode updates and a couple of Intel drivers for our Intel wireless cards. However, if we come to the Arch wiki and we go to the installation section, it says install the MESA package which provides the DRI driver for 3D acceleration. Okay, let's check whether we have the MESA package or not. So we issue the same command, but this time we check on MESA, not Intel. And we see here we have a couple of MESA drivers. We have the MESA driver, the lib32 MESA driver, we have the glue, and we have the lib32 glue, and we have the MESA util. So looks like MESA is installed fine. However, that is the 3D driver. What about 2D driver, the actual Intel drivers? Now it says for the DDX driver, we need to install the FX86 video Intel package. However, it's not often recommended because some systems have a problem with it, but we are going to take our chances and we are going to install it. However, before that, we need to check what all drivers are available for Intel for our legacy cards. To do that, first I'm going to check what are these cards we have that support 2D and 3D, and you see my Intel card supports 3D and my Nvidia card also supports 3D. However, to install an appropriate driver, we need to search the package database for the complete list of open source drivers, and if we enter this command, we see all these drivers, and if you look carefully, the driver that is installed on my system is the video VISA driver. Okay, now what is the driver? Now if the Intel driver is not found, then XOR will search for the FBdev driver. Now the FBdev driver is listed here, but it is not installed. Now it falls to the second driver. If it is not found, then it will search for the VISA driver. But the VISA driver that is installed on my system by default, it is a generic driver and does not include any 2D or 3D acceleration. So I'm out of luck with this driver. This driver has to go. All right. Now, if VISA is not found, then it will fall back to the mode setting driver. Sorry. So first, I'm going to remove the driver that is installed, the VISA driver. So I'm going to issue this command, and we are first removing the driver which is installed by default, and then we'll install the driver that we want. So I'm going to copy and paste. I'm going to say sudo pacman -s paste here, and we'll install the good Intel drivers. All right. Now this is a section that you want to copy and save it in a notepad. It says this driver now uses DRI3 for default rendering. However, if you have a problem, you can fall back to DRI2 by creating a Intel configuration file in the specified location. So copy it, save it somewhere, and I am going to be, I just copied it. So if we now check, we have installed this driver. All right. So time for a quick reboot. Okay, back from the reboot, we check that we have the Intel drivers installed. So we have the correct Intel drivers, guys. Yeah, the driver which provides good acceleration. Now, and if we check again, then we have a couple of Intel drivers as we checked last time, but we have the correct Intel drivers and the MESA packages are there. So it looks like we have the correct drivers for Intel. So we have the Intel drivers and the 3D drivers for Intel. Okay, next up. If we check for MESA, it says OpenGL is provided by MESA and lib32 MESA, as I have shown before, but this is just a sanity check, so it is good. Moving up to hardware acceleration for the Intel drivers, this page basically means that we have to install the libva Intel driver that is mentioned there and the libva utils package. Okay, you can read to your heart's content, but I just made it short for you. So I am going to first query for anything libva on my system, and I see we just have the libva driver which is providing the video hardware acceleration. That is WAPI. It's I'm just saying it's WAPI, I don't know. So I am going to install both these drivers which will provide video acceleration on my Intel system. And we are just on Intel, guys. There's a complete section for Nvidia. All right. So I'm going to install the libva Intel driver and the libva utils. Okay. And all this has come from research, from banging my head against the wall, and I didn't want my viewers to have the same problem. So I made this video so that it will serve as a tutorial for everybody and for me also. Now, if we check VA info, we have the Intel drivers. Yes, see, Intel 9965 drivers for Intel Sandy Bridge desktop. All right. Before we did not have VA info. Now I can use video hardware acceleration using my Intel drivers, and they all work well. However, if you try and install the other driver, if we go there and we check that this, and sorry, if you have to check that you have the encoding and the decoding profile. If you see the VA profile H264 main and the high are there, for the VA entry point VLD, if there is any D, it is a decoder. If it is an ENC, it is an encoder. So looks like with this driver, our encoding and decoding is working fine. So I can use any software. I can use any software to create videos, and I can encode and decode in the H26 profiles. Okay, so if we install this driver, it will conflict with the driver we have just installed. So please do not install it. All right. So next up, we are moving for the GPU product driver. So we have OpenCL. Now OpenCL is a royalty-free programming specification provided by the Kronos Group. So OpenCL specification can be provided by Intel and Nvidia. To check OpenCL's abilities on your system, first we have to install the CL info utility. And so we'll first install the CL info utility. So sudo pacman-s CL info utility, and I had to read through the entire, not the entire, lots of Arch wiki. So I'm just skipping to the parts which are important, and you don't have to read through the wiki as I had did it. So we have installed the driver, and you see there are optional dependencies for OCL ICD of the OpenCL driver. I'm certain for the newer cards you can use this driver, but don't for legacy people like us, not there. Okay, so we searched CL info and we didn't get any OpenCL information. Okay, so for Intel, if you have a generation 8 or newer driver, you can use the Intel CPU compute runtime, that which is the Neo OpenCL driver. However, I have a Sandy Bridge driver, and the next line says if you have a generation 7 Ivy Bridge or later, you can use either BeachNet, which is the open source implementation of Intel HD, or you can use Intel CL, which is the proprietary implementation. But I don't even have Ivy Bridge. I have a lower driver. That means we have to install the Intel OpenCL runtime, which is since I have a Sandy Bridge GPU. So I'm going to say yay and X install Intel OpenCL runtime. All right. And after we install this runtime, we should be having the OpenCL capabilities on a system. All right. Now this is the place where we have to make sure that we had installed the base development tools, because this is pulling the OpenCL drivers from Intel's repository, from Intel's GitHub, and it will build it for us. That is why we install the base development tools. And if we had not installed that, we couldn't have done it. Okay, now this has been installed correctly, and if we check on the option dependencies, it says we have an Intel OpenCL SDK. Since we are not developing anything right now, we don't need it. So if I check on CL info, you see, yeah, we have OpenCL on Intel, on Arch. And here we see which version of OpenCL we have. If I go up and I check, see OpenCL 2.1. So we have full profile, OpenCL 2.1. And as of right now, since we are only installing the Intel drivers, we just have OpenCL through Intel. But we'll also get OpenCL from Nvidia, but we'll reach there. See, we have OpenCL 2.1 Linux provided by Intel, and we have the full profile. So see how cool we are? I mean, cool. All right. So, and if we go and install the OpenCL driver from there, for the newer cards, it will work, but for legacy people like us, I just showed you what to do. So don't do this. Hit Control C and get out of here. All right. So don't enter anything. All right. This video is for legacy people like me. Okay. Anyways. Okay. So reboot, and we are back. And now we are back to hardware video acceleration. Now VAAPI, I'm going to say it WAPI. WAPI is provided by Intel. I don't know if, I'm sorry if the pronunciation wrong. And VDPOW, I don't know, Vada Pav or VDPOW is provided by Nvidia. So since we are Intel, since we have finished with Intel, I'm just going to install this VDPOW utility to check for the VDPOW capabilities on our system. So I'm going to say sudo pacman.s VDPOW info. Remember, we installed CL info utility. Now this utility will check for VDPOW capabilities on our system. Now we are done with the Intel drivers, and if I check VDPOW right now, it's not there because we have to install the Nvidia drivers first. So moving on to the Nvidia section. Yes, there we go. 1, 2, 3. Nvidia. Okay. Now if we go to the installation section for Nvidia, we will see that we have to first check what drivers we have. I just showed you again. I have a legacy, not legacy, sorry. I have the latest and the greatest Nvidia card, and I thank my almighty Allah for that. So I'm going to check what drivers do I have. Before that, I must determine what is my card code name. So to go to this Novio Wikis page, and the best way, the easiest way to search is to come here and to type in Control F and then search for your driver 525M, and I see that the code name is Fermi, and it says all sort of fun, but I never had any sort of fun. So we have a Fermi driver, and our code name is also there. So if we come down, it says for the NVC and NVDX card, we have to install the NVIDIA 390X DKMS package. All right, not the 471, not the latest ones, the old 390 ones. Okay, so nobody told me about this year. I was so pissed off, and so I had to figure it out. So this is a video for you, all you guys. All right. So before we install any drivers, and this is a separate day, so I'm going to update my system, and no, there are no updates which are good. So first I must query what drivers have been installed by default on my system. And this is because of the daemon killer ISO that I installed. And see, he thinks that I have a latest system, so I install all the latest drivers for me. But I don't have the latest card, so first I have to remove these drivers. Remove everything which says 510, 541, all the latest drivers. Okay. Now since I had installed Steam, I have to first remove Steam because Steam is taking the NVIDIA drivers as a dependency, and now I'm going to remove the drivers again, and make sure you have removed the all old drivers before installing the drivers that you need for your system. Now that they have been removed, do not reboot. If we query what NVIDIA drivers we have, we just have the NVIDIA VDPower library. All right. So as the wiki said, we have to install the 390 DKMS package. Now the DKMS package is a really interesting package because it is tied to the kernel that you have on your system. So if you update your kernel, the NVIDIA drivers are updated by default, and you need not install again after you update the kernels. So it's always preferred to install the DKMS packages. Now this will install a bunch of drivers, and we need to take care of the optional dependencies that we have. So if we go up, we see we have optional dependency. You see here it says optional dependency for GCC. This is installed. For patch we need ED, and for the DKMS we need the Linux kernels, the headers, sorry. Since I have a Zen kernel, I have the Zen headers, but if you have the LTS or the normal, you have to install, or the hardened, you have to install the headers. And the optional dependencies, we need the settings tool, and we need the OpenCL support there also, right? So we are going to install all these. I mean, we just follow the trail, yeah. We just install the one driver and check the optional dependencies, and we just keep going from there, and we should be good to go. Now we have installed all the optional dependencies. If you check the optional dependencies again, we see we need the OpenCL headers to install. It says it is necessary for OpenCL development, and we also need the lib32 drivers because we need the lib32 supports. Okay, and after we have installed this, if we check the optional dependencies, it says okay, OpenCL support. Now this is also required, so please copy this and paste again, and we will install this also. So you see guys what I'm doing, just picked up one driver from the wiki, check all the optional dependencies and install. That's all, but nobody will tell you other than me. Okay, all right, so we have again optional dependencies, OpenCL headers, we can install this. All right, okay, and someday I'm going to do OpenCL development. I don't know, maybe in my next life. Okay, no, I don't want to be a developer. All right, so install the CPP headers also, and we are good to go. All right, so if we check, now we have all the correct drivers for our system. So quickly reboot guys, and back from the reboot, we check we are good to go with the drivers. Now we have just installed the NVIDIA drivers for our card. Now coming to the hardware video acceleration, remember VAPI we have installed for Intel, and VDPower is for Nvidia, and we installed the VDPower utility, but we did not have any VDPower there. And we also have the NV decode and the NV encode, but that is for newer cards and not applicable to us. And if you have installed the Novue open source drivers, which I do not recommend, then you need to install those two packages. But if I check for Mesa right now, Mesa is fine. All right. And the Mesa specification for NVIDIA is provided through the utils. So we are pretty much good to go. Now we are going to dual boot through NVIDIA Optimus. There are different ways you can switch your graphics. I am going to use Optimus Manager because it works for me. Okay, and if you come to this place, it tells you that it's a Linux program to handle GPU switching. There are different ways. I did not experiment too much because I had used Optimus Manager before. It worked for me, and hopefully it will work for you too. And it's good. I mean, it's lightweight, it's good. So, and the supported display managers are SDDM, which is in my case I have SDDM, and it also has a GUI. So we will install these two packages from yay. Okay, all right, so we got it. And once we install this, we should be able to boot, switch between Intel and Nvidia depending upon our requirements. However, if it says please reboot your computer before using Optimus Manager, not right now guys, hang on. You see optional dependencies for Optimus Manager, BB switch and ACPI call. Now I was naive and I think I was going to install this. It says we need also the Intel driver, which we have installed correctly. So we are good, guys. I mean, we are on the right path. So you could install ACPI call and BB switch, but you know what? I found a better way. Don't do this. Don't do this. Remember what I talked about DKMS? Yes, we are going to use the DKMS. But before that, just ensure that Optimus Manager has been installed correctly. So copy this command from there and just check the status whether it's been activated. Okay, now remember I told you about DKMS. So ACPI call DKMS is going to be there. And where I found DKMS, again in the Arch AUR. And it says, I told you about DKMS, right? Because DKMS is tied to your kernel. So if you update your kernel, then this ACPI call will be updated, and your Optimus Manager is going to behave as it was behaving previously, and there should be no problems. And once we have installed this, quickly reboot and come back after the reboot. If we fire up the Optimus Manager to see what's going on, what? No UI. All right, what's going on? There's nothing there. Optimus Manager, come on, man, please show up. To check that, I'm going to bring up my console terminal and I'm going to run Optimus Manager from here to see what is going on behind the scenes. And it says error. Yes, we always have errors. Yeah, that is what we are for. I mean, if there was no error, wouldn't be making this video, right? And it reads, I tell you to read a couple of wikis and couple of things, and I did those couple of things, and at the end you need to modify this configuration file for your display manager, which is sddm. And okay, if I can type my password correctly, and you need to find these two commands which says display command. And so if you have control W and we say display command, and you need to comment at this line which says under X11, which is the Xorg section, comment out these two lines. Okay, put a hash in front, and now these, as soon as these are commented, hit Control S. So you're going to save, and we just wrote 51 lines. No, we just commented 2 lines here. Come on. Okay, and quickly reboot. All right, back, not reboot, guys. Okay, back after the reboot. If you fire up in Optimus Manager and moment of truth, yes, we have Optimus Manager, right? So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to show you some things very important. All right, so click on settings, and what I want to show you is not the system language. Okay, you have to launch at startup, and confirming switching is fine too, and not care about the icons. Coming down to configuration, we have a permanent configuration and we have a temporary configuration which will work only at the next boot. Coming down to Optimus, this is the place which is important. Switching method is none. So you have to go down and choose ACPI call. Why? Remember, because we have ACPI DKMS. All right, PCI reset has been set to no, but if you check, we have a function level reset and a hot reset. I prefer the function level reset, and I do not prefer the hot reset. You can play with the hot reset. I don't know if it's going to work for you or not. A function level reset is fine for me. So just go for it. I mean, okay, because we have ACPI call, yeah, just use function level reset. Okay, you can use hard reset also. Okay. Yes, please check automatic logout, so it will log out and log in. And startup mode, I prefer to keep it at integrated. You can use auto or hybrid or Nvidia, but I like to keep it at integrated. First use my Intel, and then if I'm going to play a game, switch to Nvidia. All right, driver, very important. See, it says mode setting driver. No, we have the FX window in the window. Okay, video Intel package, so we have to choose the Intel driver. Acceleration method is very important. You have to choose the correct acceleration method, guys. Please choose SNA, which is the latest acceleration method that we legacy guys can afford. Okay. Otherwise, if you choose to XNA or UXA, which is not that good. If you get any tearing, then you can try yes or no. I think the default is bound to yes, so default is good for me. And the DRI, remember the acceleration DRI 3. If you not, you can fall back to DRI 2. But TRI is working for me and is working good for me, and we don't have AMD. For Nvidia, I'm not going to mess with the DPI, dynamic power management. I'm going to not mess with it. Again, it's an experimental feature for Turing GPUs and above, and I don't have those cards, so I'm not going to use it. All right, mode side is fine, and the others look good too. and overclocking options, although I'm not making an overclocking video right now, but we'll just keep it at check. And you can also check ignore ABI. Okay, so looks good, and we're going to click on OK. And now we're going to switch. Moment of truth coming up shortly, guys. We're going to click switch on apply, and before that, I'll stop the recording. Click on apply, backup recording, and now we are in on NVIDIA. Yes. You see, we are running NVIDIA. To verify, just pull up our NVIDIA X server settings and see it pulls up. We have NVIDIA, guys, right, working. We are Optimus Manager is working, and the next second way to check it is through the NVIDIA SMI command line utility. It says your driver version, your temperature and everything, and you see I'm not using any GPU processes right now. My NVIDIA is not running anything right now other than my display. So if I check VDPower, remember VDPower info, because we had used it before, but it's not VDPower, it's VDPower info. If I can remember correctly, it's VDPower info. And yes, we have VDPower info, which is the video hardware acceleration provided by NVIDIA. Since we install the NVIDIA drivers and VDPower info is provided by the NVIDIA utils, we install NVIDIA utils also, we are getting VDPower. You see, we have the right drivers, guys. All right, so let me close this. And there are some things that I must show you again. Okay, and if we fire up our system settings, if we go down to the about the system, you must verify that your graphics processor is listed as NVIDIA and not Intel. All right, click on show more information and come down to the graphics section and verify that all your OpenGL, Vulkan, and X server is working. So if you're on OpenGL, EGL, these look good, and put it down all the way down to see looks everything fine. OpenGL, GLX, okay, client vendor is fine. Okay, just pull it down and just make sure it's working. Vulkan, I don't have a Vulkan capable NVIDIA card. If you do have, Vulkan should work for you. And X server looks fine too. So yes, looks like we have installed the NVIDIA drivers correctly, and we are good to go. Now, in part of our celebration, we are going to install. Now, if you check VA info, remember VA info is for Intel. We don't have it on NVIDIA, but we're going to get it on NVIDIA. Wait. And in part of a celebration, I'm going to install GLX gears, which will verify whether our OpenGL MESA is working correctly. And yes, these are GLX gears. I love these guys. I mean, 3 gears in tandem in Symphony, and it says the synchronized to the vertical refresh frame rate. It should be approximately same as the monitor refresh rate. Okay, so I'm going to bring up my monitor refresh rate. I'm going to show you guys. See, 60 hertz, and we have 76 hertz there too. So we have good OpenGL running. Okay, OpenCL. We remember we have OpenCL from Intel and Nvidia. We can also install hardware independent OpenCL, which is this POCL. And if you install this, then you're going to have 3 providers which are providing OpenCL on your system. If you click on CL info, and if you bring up all the way up, you see the number of platforms that are providing OpenCL right now is 3. What are those 3 platforms? If you ask me, well, Control F, search for platform name. So platform name, first is Intel, which is providing OpenCL 2.0. Next is Nvidia. OpenCL is a specification, can be provided by Intel, Nvidia, AMD, and this hardware independent guy too. Portables computing language, POCL, and OpenCL 2.0, and Nvidia. So we 3 providers for OpenCL on my system. And what more do I want? All right. So remember I told you VA info is for Intel and VDPower is for Nvidia, and we are on Nvidia, but I would like to have VAPI. So am I going to get it? Yes. If you have an Nvidia card capable of NV decode and NV encode, then you can use this driver, the Nvidia VAPI driver. I do not have that card, so I'm going to pass on that. Since I want VAPI, I'm going to install this driver. What am I doing? I'm on an I'm on an Nvidia card, and I want VAPI, which is provided by Intel, and that is being offered by these translation layers. Okay, so if I hit VA info, you see I didn't get any VA info. But now if I install this driver, hopefully I am going to get VA info, although I am on my Nvidia card, which is provided by Intel. Okay, so this is being translated in the backend, and now if I hit up arrow and say VA info, yes, you see we have VAPI version 1.13, splitted desktop systems, VDPower backend for VAPI, and we have the decode profiles. We don't have the encode profiles. Remember, in Intel, we had the encode and the decode profile. The encode is a little bit higher, but even if we are on Nvidia, we don't have Intel, we can get VAPI. I mean, pretty cool, guys. I mean, don't you think it's so super exciting to have all these graphic drivers at your disposal? And again, in celebration, I'm going to bring up GLX gears. But yes. Wait, guys, we have one more thing to show you. Switch back to your Intel graphics driver, and we are going to get VDPOW for Intel. Yes, VDPOW is provided by Nvidia. But you see, now that I'm on my Intel, if I check, VA info is there, and we have the encoding and the decoding profiles. But if I check on VDPOW info, I don't have VDPOW because I'm on Intel. But Intel guys, don't despair, guys. I mean, you can have VDPOW even though you don't have an Nvidia card. How? Through this translation layer. So just copy and then paste and install this driver. And after you have installed this driver, we will be having VDPOW. Let's see whether or not that's true. Okay, so sudo pacman s, okay, VDPOW, okay, whatever VAGL, and let's install it. And once this is installed, let me quickly check VDPOW info. Yes, you see, guys, VDPOW info on Intel. So we installed all these drivers. I mean, the correct Intel drivers, the hardware acceleration drivers, VA info drivers, the MESA drivers, the OpenCL drivers. Now we switched over the Intel to Nvidia drivers and whatnot, and everything for, again, repeating for Nvidia, and they also installed OpenCL hardware independent drivers. Coming to Vulkan finally. Vulkan is a low overhead cross-platform 3D graphics and compute API. Going to the installation section. It says on hybrid graphics, Vulkan is not supported by Bumblebee, but it does work with Primus VK and Primus VTGate, which you'll find in the AUR. And the Radeon Vulkan driver not supports Prime 2. However, to run a Vulkan application, you need to install the Vulkan ICD and the lib32 Vulkan ICD loader. But before installing these drivers, we are going to first install a tool, which is the Vulkan hardware database. Has a tool which you can upload your Vulkan configuration and check if you actually have hardware which supports Vulkan. So we are going to install it from Yay and say, yay, install Vulkan Caps Viewer X11. Since I'm running X11, if you have Wayland, use the Wayland version. And this will take some time because it is going to build from source. And in the midway, it will ask you for your password. You enter your password and it is installed. From firing up the Vulkan Caps Viewer, you can check whether your hardware actually supports Vulkan. And you see, this hardware does not support Vulkan. All right, so this is why this interface is blank. If it did support, then I would be having something. And I'm running on Intel. Nevertheless, if I had a hardware that supports Vulkan, these are the drivers that we need to install. So first, we will check what Vulkan drivers we have. And you see, we have the Vulkan ICD loader, the lib32 Vulkan ICD loader. We need to install the Intel Vulkan drivers. All right. Now, I'm assuming you have a Vulkan capable hardware. So let me install those drivers and we'll say sudo pacman.s, which is Vulkan Intel drivers. Yes. Okay. And once this installs, we will be checking. If we check the optional dependencies, we said we have to install the Vulkan MESA layers too. Always check for the optional dependencies and install them if it is relevant to your system. All right. So we are going to install Vulkan MESA layers. If we hit sudo pacman s, install Vulkan MESA layers. Next up, we will check if this guy has any no. So remember, we need to install the lib32 ones too also. So let me hit the up arrow and append lib32 in front of this. So lib32 Vulkan Intel, and this installation will again go in a jiffy. Check the optional dependencies. We have a lib32 Vulkan MESA layers. So let's copy it, and not copy, we'll just hit the up arrow, and I'm going to again append lib32 in front of Vulkan. All right. So now I think we are done with all the Vulkan drivers, and let's quickly reboot. Now, I have rebooted into a system where I have Vulkan capable hardware, and if we fire up the Vulkan capable hardware viewer, Then you see we have the Intel HD4 graphics, which actually supports Vulkan. This is a separate machine. I wanted to show you what it would look like if you had Vulkan capable hardware. So we installed those drivers and we rebooted and we fired up Vulkan capability viewer, and these are the core 1.0, core 1.1, 1.2 and extensions that you see. And we have the Intel open source MESA drivers, and we have the extensions too. I'm not very familiar with what these guys are. Just I'm not an expert on the graphics stack, but anyways, just going to show you like the drivers. So, and you can also upload your driver to the database. So this device can be uploaded to the database, and so everybody will be aware if you have this device, then what are the capabilities. However, so this is Vulkan for you guys, and that's about it. Once more, we are going to check for Vulkan in our system setting. So let me open that up, and if you check the info center, once this guy opens up, actually you see we have the red. See, I was showing you all the thing in the Sandy Bridge processor. This is the Ivy Bridge, and which supports Vulkan, but it says Vulkan support is incomplete. So if we scroll to the right, we'll see it says C. Vulkan supports loader configuration. Oh, no. It says Vulkan supports. Okay, so this supports only up till interface 4. Interface 5 or newer is required to support this version of Vulkan. Okay, so if you have a better hardware, I'm sure you will have this setup. Okay, before going out, we will see we have all the relevant drivers on our system. The lib32 Vulkan ICD loader, the Vulkan loaders, the Vulkan Intel, everything that I did on my previous machine is applicable here. It's going to be applicable to you. Okay, because one more thing we can do is run Vulkan info from the command line, since we have Vulkan tools installed, and they will open up, give you all the information about the Vulkan on your system. All right, you see we have the Intel open source MESA driver. All right, that is Vulkan for you guys on Intel. Now I'm going to switch to Nvidia to show you how Vulkan runs on Nvidia. So switching to Nvidia, I'm going to be logged out and back in. And it says here clearly for Nvidia, you need these two files, like the Nvidia utils and the lib32 Nvidia utils. See, no Vulkan there again, and my Nvidia does not support Vulkan. I'm going to check the drivers that I have for Nvidia. So I'm going to check Nvidia just to see we have the utils. And since I installed the old version of the drivers, the 390XX drivers, you see we have Nvidia 390X utils, and on top lib32 Nvidia 390X utils. Although we have the relevant drivers, Vulkan is not supported on my machine. That is Vulkan for you guys. Okay, so if you are with me till here, congratulations guys. I mean really, and you will be having a lot of things on your system. So to get rid of all those, switch to root, remember your root password, and enter this command, which will uninstall all the unnecessary pacman utilities, or libraries you have. I would recommend it. Take your call, yes or no. I would leave it, but you can if you want to. So thank you so much guys for your time. Take care. See you next time. Bye bye.